Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. We're so glad you're here. My name is Megan Maciel, and on behalf of all of the employee owners here at Terracon, I want to thank you for joining us for this afternoon's pavement management webinar, Maximizing Your Infrastructure Performance with Tools and Technology, Pavement Management Insights. Just a few housekeeping items before we get started with our speakers today. We definitely want to talk with you and hear any questions you might have, and we do have some time for Q&A built in at the end of this presentation. So if you wouldn't mind holding your questions till the end, we would appreciate that. You're welcome to go ahead and put your questions in the chat, or at the end of the presentation, we can unmute your microphone and you can ask those questions live to our pavement experts. And as always, if you think of questions after this performance, our presenters will have their contact information available for you as well, so you can connect with them after the presentation. So just to get started, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Andrea Blanchett to kick us off today. Go ahead, Andrea.
Hi, everyone. Great turnout, seeing some familiar names pop up in the chat, so welcome. Megan kicked us off with the title slide here, but just making sure everyone's in the right place. Got an exciting day of pavement management discussion and highlighting some of our new technology to share with you today. So happy to get started here. I'm going to just introduce our list of speakers today. I'm Andrea Blanchett. I manage our Terracon's pavement management service and have been here about 3 years, but working exclusively on pavement management projects for the better part of my almost 15-year career. So excited to engage you in this topic today. Joining me with some slides will be Bill Collister. He's our national sales lead. Amit Mehra, who is our PaveAI champion here, our developer with PaveAI. He'll share a little bit about how we got started with that team. And then Steve Ward is our IT product manager to share how we're delivering these projects to our client. So hold introductions on them. I'll bring them up as their topics arise here. If anyone on the call has worked with Terracon before, you know we have a strong safety culture. Safety is at the forefront of every project we do, and we like to start each meeting and webinar with a safety-focused moment. I like to share one that's specific to this service area. So anyone familiar with pavement management knows that the data collection is a large component of that, gathering the distress information in the field. Historically, this has been done manually, where we'd send a technician to a site with a measuring wheel and possibly a tablet or sheets of paper. They'd walk around a site and jot down any notes on measurements. And it was all done manually. It was very time consuming. They'd be out there the better part of a day, kind of distracted, right? Writing down, head down on a tablet or clipboard there. And so it was presented a safety risk to our technicians. You kind of just trusted you were visible. We can wear all the PPE in the world, but we can't really prevent distracted drivers and just unsafe conditions. So one of the benefits of this AI technology that we're utilizing now, we are using a camera to film a site, keeps our technicians in the vehicle, so it's much safer. But there still present some safety concerns. So on larger, busier sites, we'll send 2 technicians to make sure that we're doing this process as safely as possible, both for our technicians and for the client. We don't want any disruptions to your daily routine, and we want to be as invisible to your guests and people on your sites as possible as well. So I'm going to just start off with a bit of an agenda. We'll do a brief introduction to Terracon for those who we may be new to you, just kind of share a high-level overview of our company, and then talk a little bit about why pavement condition matters, a little bit about what is pavement management. This is a little bit of part 2 to a webinar we did last year. There is a recording of that for people that want to get a little more in the weeds on the technical components of pavement condition, but I will do a high-level overview of that today. And then ways that the technology that we're using can actually improve the way that these assessments are done. I'll highlight the more complete coverage that we're getting and the really impressive product we're passing along to our clients. And then lastly, why does this matter to you and how can you use this? It's one thing to collect the data. It's another to educate you on how this can really impact your operation, save you money, and extend the life of your pavement. So that's what we'll be covering today. Bill, I'll open it up to you to talk a little bit about Terracon.
Thank you, Andrea. Appreciate it very much, and welcome everybody on the call today. As Andrea talked about at Terracon, we start with a safety culture, but one of our other mantras that we live by is exploring beyond the surface. And we find in every way that working with whether it's our facilities team, our environmental team, our geotechnical team, our materials team, we find ways every day to be able to take pavement consulting into those realms and into those client bases to find new opportunities to partner. So learning a little bit today about the technology and how we go about that in our process is an important step for those clients on the call to be able to understand how we can do that for you. Andrea, next slide. We do that every day based upon our national presence. We work with clients all over the country. We have over 175 offices in the United States with over 6,000 employees, and many of those employees get to participate with our pavement consulting process. In fact, we have over 60 pavement consultants, people that focus on pavement consulting around the country. We look at those in different buckets and in different places around the country. But with Andrea and her leadership on the pavement consulting team, we engage all of our offices around the United States to be able to do that. So no matter where you are in the United States, if you're in Washington or Florida or the Northeast or Southwest, we have pavement consultants that can partner with you on your projects, and we're excited about those opportunities. We've been doing this for a long time. 25 years partnering with clients like you, we've learned a lot of things. But three things that we've learned in particularly are that clients want to save money and they want to mitigate their risk. If we can't do that for them, then it's difficult to understand the value that we can provide to them as well. They want to have better performing pavement, and we can provide that through our technology. We can provide that through our services and through our consulting plan that we put together for our clients. And then they want to have a more comprehensive and actionable plan instead of a reactionary plan. We find clients all day long that want to manage by Band-Aids or want to manage by reactioning to the things that happen on the process. But those clients that really buy into the proactive management of pavement consulting do save money, they help to mitigate their risk, and they have longer, better performing pavement through the process. And we've developed our best practices around these things. And we're going to talk about some of those things today. And you're going to hear some great technology. You're going to hear some great information from Amit and from Steve and from Andrea. So Andrea, go ahead and take it away with the rest of the presentation.
Thanks, Bill. And I did sprinkle in a few of these red slides to kind of get you thinking today. And this brief moment of self-reflection is to just take a second and think about the pavements at your facility. We have a vast array of clients on the call today, or people interested in this topic, from schools to cities to facility managers. Basically, what you all have in common is that you must interact with pavements on some level, or you wouldn't be here today. So start thinking about what your pavements look like. If the answer is, we just built 100 brand new parking lots, that's great. Maybe you don't have an immediate need, but you will at some point. And even the nicest looking parking lots still have preventative maintenance that can be done. So kind of put yourself in the frame of mind of where you might be in your role today. And then for those that are dealing with pavements that have started to fail, how much of a pain point is that for you? Are you throwing a lot of resources at that, not just financially, but let's say you manage a school, or you have a couple, maintenance guys at a school district. Are they spending a lot of resources patching potholes or spending a lot of attention on the parking lot when they could be focused on a slew of other things at your facility? So we want pavements to be painless for you. We don't want this to be something that is worrisome and always top of mind. That's what we're here to take care of for you. So I'll give you a little bit of why pavement condition should matter and does matter. You see two images there. One is a brand new shiny asphalt pavement. This could be in front of, a retail facility. Either one of these could be, right? And I'll tell you, I've made decisions in my personal life on where I go grocery shopping based on the condition of the parking lot. We had two, well-known retailers within 10 minutes of my house. and one had a nice looking parking lot. The other looked a little more like the image on the right there. And I'll tell you, as someone pushing a stroller or the shopping cart through that parking lot on the right there, it's a lot of work. You get your gym workout in along with your shopping errands. So I say this to point out that the appearance of the outside of a facility can indicate what viewers' perception is of the inside. Oftentimes we hear from retail clients, you know, they want the aesthetics outside to be a reflection of what their store or facility might look like on the inside. Also think about, you know, maybe elderly patrons walking across. We have some healthcare facilities joining us today. Picture, you know, what that might look like to cross this parking lot. And I'll just share a little bit of a personal note, kind of my why. This is a picture of my dad. He's had Parkinson's disease for close to 20 years now, and people with Parkinson's struggle with balance. They need some help walking sometimes, their legs will go out, and so trip hazards are of concern. And a couple years ago, maybe 2-3 years ago, my mom was taking him to an eye doctor appointment, and he tripped in a pothole at the eye doctor and fell and broke his hip. And so this is a picture of him rehabbing with his PT lady, recovering from his hip surgery, hip replacement. So these potholes can have real life consequences. I'm not just making this up, but this can affect people's livelihood and ease of access to a site. So we want to eliminate that for users and make sure that the parking lots are performing and are safe for people using that. Pavement condition can also matter in terms of sustainability. The longer you can extend the life of a pavement, the less you're constantly in there reconstructing, which one has a large economic cost, a lot of materials, it has environmental considerations, you know, your carbon footprint of doing these large reconstruction projects. And then also from a social standpoint, you know, we want people to traverse these smoothly. And there's statistics on, you know, the smoother the pavement, the actual better your fuel mileage can be versus this rough ride and an unsmooth surface. So this is an image taken from the FHWA. They have a lot of great material on sustainability in terms of pavement life cycle as well. Getting into the pavement management life cycle. So we have people kind of at any stage of this here. I like to focus on what I look at as step one, the data collection step. And one of my mentors in my career always said, if you don't measure it, you can't manage it. Meaning, if you don't have, you know, solid data and numbers to make decisions off of, it's really hard to plan, you know, what your next 5 or 10 years of pavement maintenance looks like. Can everyone hear me? I see someone lost the sound. I'll keep going unless someone, Steve, am I good?
I can hear you.
Okay. And so if you don't measure it, it's hard to manage it. And that means, you know, speaking in terms of qualitative data versus kind of warm, fuzzy words like, oh, our parking lots are all good or they're poor, but really understanding what that means and allowing the data to help drive decisions for you know, anybody that manages these large networks of pavements. So step one is collecting the data. Step two, you know, we utilize asset management softwares that can help us with the predictive modeling, maybe setting up customized programs for you as the client. These can really be catered on location. Pavements up here. Oh, I forgot to mention I'm up in Minnesota, if you can't tell by my accent, but people up here in the Midwest, we have a lot of freeze thaw cycles. Our pavements are really beat from all the seasonal changes here and the water that infiltrates the surface and freezes and thaws. That's different than pavements in Phoenix where the sun beats down on them all day. So customizing a program to your geographic location is important as well. It shouldn't be a one size fits all if you have sites across the country. Once we recommend maintenance for a site, there might be more work to be done. A lot of times we'll say, you know, you're at the peak of this pavement really degrading quickly. Maybe you have a chance to do a mill and overlay where you'd mill off, you know, an inch and a half of that top wear course and put down another layer of pavement, extending the life of that. Well, we don't always know the thickness of the pavement. So doing cores or borings, or we have a geophysics department that has GPR, ground penetrating radar. are, which can tell you the thickness of your pavement and know if that's even a viable option for you. We can also help, or the next step in this process would be putting a design package together, some bidding documents, taking this out to the contractor for you. We have great relationships with contractors across the country who know, what the right fix is, what the appropriate time to do that is. And I would say that pavement management shouldn't and isn't, an urgent need. This is a planning tool. And so the more proactive you are on collecting the data, what I like to share is, especially in the Midwest here, when we have winter and spring, if you're first to the line in spring when contractors are putting their list of projects together for the summer, you often see lower prices than if you're trying to cram in a reconstruction project like late October before they're done for the season, unlike this year where we haven't had much snow. But in general, if you're in a rush and they're doing it for you in a pinch, you'll see prices a little bit higher. And then we can help with construction admin, making sure that the right mix is being delivered to a project, keeping a contractor honest on site, making sure there's good quality happening during construction, and then getting back to the inventory and data collection. So it's just this kind of cyclical process of managing your pavements from cradle to grave. Here's my one kind of technical slide on Pavement Management 101. So we base our inspections off of ASTM 6433. That's the industry standard for parking lot and roadway pavement inspection. This is for both concrete and asphalt pavement. And you see here what happens when you speak in terms of a number. PCI, a pavement condition index value, is on a scale of 0 to 100. A 100 would be a brand new pavement. There's no flaws or cracks or potholes, nothing has formed yet, so it's perfect. And then as you increase the amount of distress, the severity level, whether it's low, moderate, or high severity distress, and then the extent of distress. Do you have 1 pothole versus 10? Do you have 10 square feet of cracking versus 1,000? You'll see your score degrade there. So that's a little bit of a visual spectrum of what a PCI of a 100 looks like in comparison to a 5 down at the bottom there. And as facility managers, you can kind of use that guide to dictate where you're comfortable at. We have clients that set a high aesthetic standard and they want their PCIs maintained, upwards of an 80. That's totally fine. That comes with a cost, right? So it costs more money to maintain at a higher overall PCI average, but maybe a 49 isn't realistic for you. You've got a lot of complaints from users, or there's a lot of risks or safety issues happening at a PCI that low. So you can really guide and kind of set your average target value there and work to maintain your network at that level. We use the PCI numerical data to attribute this to different types of maintenance. So gone are the days where it's just build a pavement at year 15, mill and overlay, and then wait till you reconstruct it. There are a ton of tools in the toolbox for both concrete and asphalt pavements, whether it be surface treatments like microsurfacing, a fog seal, chip sealing, different reclamation, reconstruction of a pavement, full depth repair type work. So again, different states have different contractors that specialize in different processes, but there's a lot of options for repairing a pavement that can really save clients money. Just for a quick example, something like a fog seal might be done on a really hot climate area like Phoenix. We do these a lot in the Midwest and Minnesota specifically. Picture like a brand new dark asphalt pavement, right? It's jet black and it bakes in the sun all day. A fog seal is done. It's a thin asphalt emulsion that is sprayed on the surface of the parking lot and prevents that top surface of the pavement from oxidizing and becoming brittle, which leads to little micro cracks that form, which is the gateway to water infiltration of the pavement, which leads to more robust cracking. I like to equate a fog seal like a sunscreen. You put sunscreen on your skin so you don't bake out in the sun, similar to that application. So all of these serve a purpose, and we would build these into a pavement management program for you to help better maintain your pavements. You'll see on the graph there's kind of this spectrum of going from a good pavement all the way down to a pavement that has failed. You see the start cliff, right? So the pavement, it's built and then it sits out in the weather and it starts to degrade over time. And there is a sweet spot before it kind of hits the point of no return. And when it does, your repair work, you have one option, and that is to reconstruct, and that's done at a much higher cost versus if you can do preventative maintenance, which is in that green range there, you know, a PCI of above a 70, you can keep crack sealing your pavements, do these surface treatments. There's the sweet spot, kind of that fair category there where, you know, maybe the pavement's starting to degrade, but maybe we can do a mill and overlay or a little bit more robust treatment to extend the life before the pavement fails. Those type of applications, when you can catch this before it fails, is how you can really save money and make your pavement performance and extend the life of the pavements much longer than intended. So hopefully that's a quick summary on the data collection aspect. I mentioned that we used to do these manually. We'd send out a technician and collect all of this data for us. I'll welcome Amit to join me here, and we're going to start to transition into some of the technology we're using and show you the way we're using machine learning, AI, and video capture to do these pavement assessments for us. So to start this, I'd like Amit to just kind of share his story and how his team got into working with pavements. Amit?
Thank you, Andrea. I am on the mic. Hopefully you can hear me, but my camera is not turning on, it seems like.
I could see you, Amit, but
you could?
Regardless,
right.
I could. Yep, go ahead.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, everyone. Great to be able to be on this and appreciate your time. My name is Amit. I am with Pave AI, and what I am hoping to do is talk a little bit about the technology, give you some of our background and kind of how we came to be in this arena, and talk through some of the issues that we see, right? So starting off with our background, it might surprise you, but we are not geotechnical engineers. We are not PEs. We're actually a bunch of aerospace engineers who build satellites for DoD, right? We use a lot of AI for looking at geospatial imagery and doing detection on board the satellite. So the obvious question you should be asking is, why are a bunch of guys who are building satellites all of a sudden also looking at potholes and pavement cracks and things like that, right? The emphasis here is the reason why this works really well is Terracon has a significant amount of domain expertise in everything related to pavement and other areas, and a lot of data, right? So what we are trying to do is sort of complement that capability with new technology in areas that we think, you know, to use the overused cliched, are ripe for disruption, right? So that's kind of where this marriage has been made. And Andrea, if you go to the next slide, I can start to talk specifics. So the way we got started was a few years ago, we were working with the Air Force, and they wanted us to apply our algorithms for infrastructure. The specific location was a base close to Seattle called Joint Base Lewis McChord. We were out there, and we were originally looking at roof inspection, but in spending time with them, what became very clear was that pavement was a big pain point. They had about 110 million square feet of pavement. And as you can imagine, every 5 years, they would put out requests for proposals. You know, a team of engineers would come. They would walk a small subsample of that entire base, like is typically done with pavement management. And what they would do is create literally the 600-page report that had a whole bunch of pictures. It had a lot of manual kind of forms that were filled in and color maps. and things like that. So certainly looking from the outside, it seemed a little bit odd to us. And the question always was, can you use technology to take away the very labor intensive part of having to manually go inspect this pavement, which directly limited how much you could really analyze, right? So again, the typical way is you go pick 5 or 6 representative squares, and then you extrapolate the rest of the area being the same as what you determine when you do your sampling. So again, we were coming at it from the standpoint, can we take some of our image processing and AI techniques to basically have algorithms do flaw detection and take out that very expensive labor-intensive part of manually having to mark up the flaws. There were 3 or 4 things that became very apparent as we started down this journey. So Andrea, if you go to the next slide, let me highlight those. The first one was, how do you go about the imaging side? Drones were the obvious choice in some regard, but we realized early on, and today make the joke that the Air Force will not let the Air Force fly an Air Force-owned drone on an Air Force base, right? While that may sound funny, it's actually not that far off from the truth, but certainly, on a base or a military facility, the regular concerns around overflight and safety and needing 107 certified pilots and some of the other constraints, they only become magnified, right? So for us, it was imperative to come up with a way where we were not required to aerially image using a drone. We instead came up with a ground-based imaging technique. And again, the other paradigm we chose is keep the equipment simple, right? Low-cost equipment that can quickly be sent to wherever it's needed, and someone with minimal training can use it to create what we need from a flaw detection process. Now, obviously, that has limitations, and we cannot be everything to everyone, right? So by no means can we compete with the purpose-built vans that have $500,000 or $1 million worth of equipment. This is a fundamentally different choice we made as to where we operate in this kind of design space. So the imaging and how you can do this in a cost-effective manner quickly was one of the main constraints that we were faced with. The second thing is image resolution, right? So for all of you guys who've seen satellite imagery, going to aerial imagery, down to what we show you here by way of detail, the metric that matters is called GSD, or ground sampling distance, and that basically says is how big is your pixel, right? For reference, typical satellite imagery, the best commercial imagery that you can get, each pixel is as large as 30 centimeters. So when you zoom in at extremely high levels, you're going to see 30 centimeter by 30 centimeter or 1 meter by 1 meter pixels that are all the same color. So there's obviously no way you're going to see any pavement, right? As you get lower and lower, aerial imagery gets better. And again, unless you go to very high megapixel, which means expensive cameras, the higher you up, the lower resolution you're going to get. So the other challenge for us was, being relatively close to the ground, can we get what is millimeter scale GSD in a low cost package? And the reason why that's important is if you are trying to look at a crack, unless that crack width is spanned by 3 or 4 or 5 pixels, you're not going to pick it up, right? So for an ASTM compliant flaw detection process, you really have to be able to measure flaws. You have to be able to get severity levels, which is where image resolution does become a fundamental constraint. The last consideration is around AI. AI comes in many flavors, and especially in today's world, everyone talks about using AI. So I wanted to spend just a few seconds talking about what type of AI we do, right? So in the top picture here, you see what's called detection. This is a fairly straightforward problem. Whether you're looking at cars, people, faces, objects, identifying something and putting a box around it is a relatively straightforward problem. If you go down to what we would say is the other extreme, when you're doing classification and segmentation, which means you're not putting a box around what may look like a set of block cracks, but you are identifying every single pixel that is part of that longitudinal high severity crack versus a medium severity block crack, et cetera, right? So this is a significantly harder problem. And as you can imagine, when you have non-discrete objects, so flaws, cracks, potholes that are overlaid, sometimes you may have alligator cracks with longitudinal cracks within a patch as part of a block cracking type environment. There's a lot of complexity that gets added very quickly. And the only way your models work accurately is, again, thankfully, with all the training data that Terracon has, we believe we have models that are well trained and can actually distinguish these flaws as close and objectively as an engineer would, to the point that we can now run large amounts of imagery purely on a process basis and be able to get outputs that drive PCI. So that kind of is a quick overview of the technology. Certainly happy to take questions towards the end of this, and we'll hand it back, Andrea, to you and Steve.
Thanks, Amit. Yeah, Amit hit on a couple key points there. So this technology, one of the benefits of it is it takes the inherent bias of a rater out of the equation. So in order to do manual surveys, we did a project. We had 140 parking lots to rate across the country. We deployed about 16 to 20 technicians, and we got 16 to 20 different set of eyes viewing the pavement. So there's just this natural inherent bias of the rater that no matter how good you train someone based on ASTM 6433, the way that I would view something, with the severity level would just naturally differ slightly from how Amit might view something. So using the model, it's the same set of eyes, so you really get a fair comparison of the pavement condition. I'm going to transition and welcome Steve to join me here. Steve is going to demo our Compass portal. This is how we've been delivering these PaveAI projects to our clients. It showcases the high resolution imagery as well as the PCI heat map that Amit was describing. So we definitely want to show you guys what this looks like. The case study Steve is going to show is actually one of our longest serving clients. This is Maricopa Community College in Arizona. I just want to mention this is made up of 32 campuses, run by 16 different facility managers. It's 142 parking lots. It's about 16 million square feet of pavement that they manage. So a lot of opinions with different facility managers and a huge amount of pavement that for over 25 years now, we've helped this client manage their pavements. And after Steve does this demo, I'll show you some of the reporting and results that we've got from them. But Steve, go ahead.
Yeah, Andrea, thank you. And thank you everybody for your time today. So I am sharing my screen. This is a view of Compass, which is our digital delivery and consulting platform. So it's the same program that will deliver our geotechnical projects. You could see the borings underneath the surface or materials testing and see, the compaction results and everything like that. So a powerful platform to see, project life cycle. But we're going to show you how we also deliver our digital products, such as PaveAI in Compass. This is a map of the various campuses for this client that Andrea mentioned, and I can just go ahead and zoom right in, or I could use the search and find a specific campus as well. But as I zoom in, you'll see that we start to see some map layers show up. And so that high resolution imagery that Amit was speaking of, that's gigabits of data, is presented through a web browser and lets you just zoom in and just see bits of it at a time. You can click on view a new tab and switch this over to aerial imagery. and get a full screen. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now and show you a couple of things. One of the first things that Amit mentioned is the level of resolution that is needed to do this work. And to demonstrate this to you, I'm going to zoom in on these buildings, and you can see some air conditioning units here. As I zoom in to about this level, it starts to get blurry, and it's just going to get more blurry the more I zoom in. However, where we have done the Pave AI imagery that you can see here with the color coding on it, and you'll see as I zoom way in, we can get all the way down, and this will refresh here in a moment and show you that this is a sewer cover to access the area. You can see on the embossing the shadows from this as well. So that's how we're able to show this level of information, and Amit and his team are able to use this data and calculate through the AI those values based upon the flaws that are found. So I'm going to zoom back out here again and look at a larger area of the parking lot to kind of show you how the machine learning is calculating. And you can see the legend over here. If I zoom down in my options, it shows you those PCI rating scores anywhere from 0 up to 100 in the different categories. But I'll go ahead and go back to the imagery now and zoom in on a specific area on the site. And you'll see how the machine learning, the AI, has gone through and calculated areas of PCI scoring. And you can see here, the darkest red is the most impacted area, the most fractured. And as you zoom in, you really see the sorts of cracking that's involved in this area, the sorts of degradation of the pavement that's there. Some areas just to the north of this that have a little bit less, but still more significant than areas over here that are less significant, and further between those cracks as we go through there. So this is just our tool to allow our clients to come in and not only just get a report that says, here's the numbers, here's the acreage, here's the linear feet, or even here's the dollars, but visualization helps immensely, whether it is a project manager trying to make sure we are providing the best consulting for our clients, or whether it is you and your organization trying to go to whether it's an internal team or it is a tax base to say, we need money to fix this. And not only here's just a report for you to see that, but here's the visualization. And you have a tool that gives you the power to do that as well. As I mentioned, it's easy to find other sites available. So if we wanted to switch away and we wanted to go to Gateway Community College, which is part of the same campus, just do that, just click enter, and it's going to find the site and zoom in there to where we could start to see the pavements that are available on this site. So Andrea, that's it. Anything you wanted me to cover before I turn it back over to you?
Nope, I would just mention too, in the Compass portal, we have a lot of historical geotechnical data that clients can utilize, and just layers, information, soil layers, and other known layers of information in there to help make these robust recommendations. I'm going to keep going on with the slides there. I'm addressing some questions, but can't get to them all right now, but we can come back to those at the end. So thank you, Steve, for sharing that demo with us. So another one of these kind of thought-provoking slides to think about the impact to you and your situation. How do these pavements and the pavement condition impact your revenue? Are you spending a lot of money reconstructing or doing significant repair work? Think about this in terms of revenue of a consumer. Like I mentioned, I might make a decision to shop somewhere or not shop somewhere based on the condition of the parking lot. So are you losing money up front because people just aren't coming to your location? There's operational cost. Are you having a lot of downtime? Are your fleet vehicles hitting potholes, breaking axles, and you've got issues in just keeping your facilities up and running and trucks coming in and out? School, we have a lot of schools on the call today. Your buses, can they get in and out of a site smoothly? So, and then risk. I mentioned my dad falling. Are people, is there a risk associated and a cost associated with that risk, or the threat of somebody suing you because you have some significant potholes or something on a site or one of the pavements that you manage. So think about the impact as we continue here. I'm going to continue on this Maricopa Community College example and show you some of the raw data that we've obtained. We kind of summarized over the last 20 plus years of working with them. How did we save them money? How has this program impacted them? And so the graph I'm showing you here is our actual PCI value. So the average network score year to year, when we rate all their parking lots, what is their average pavement condition index value? And you can see it's kind of fluctuated over the years. Let me back up. I used to have a little red target line. Their goal was to maintain at a target line of a 70. The blue graph that showed up is what the asset management softwares would have you predict the pavement PCI would drop to had they had a hands-off approach. They build the parking lot, they don't touch it until, it reaches its 20, 30, 40-year design life. It's completely fallen apart. So you see very low scores, right? You're not doing any maintenance on these parking lots. You're just letting them go. The green here is the maintenance cost. So this is what the Maricopa has invested in their parking lots year to year on maintenance, whether it be crack sealing, some patching. They've said, we want to maintain at a 70. What minimal work can we do on each parking lot to keep our average PCI score at or above a 70? The gray that just popped up is showing had they have let the PCI score drop to that blue condition, so let it go, what would we have had to pay to bring it back up to a 70? So obviously if you let a pavement fail to a 40 or below, you see that at a 20 there at the end, it'd be almost a $48 million investment of basically reconstructing everything to bring it back up to that target PCI of a 70 average across the network. And then I think it's the yellow that just popped up are the fees that they've paid Terracon over the years to maintain their pavements for them. So for a small investment, utilizing somebody to manage this for them, we've estimated we've saved them over $35 million. Had they not invested in a pavement management program, they likely wouldn't have had all of this cost savings. And that's a lot of money. I mean, think of the other things they can do on a campus facility instead of just reconstructing their pavements. And again, it's not just the dollar cost, right? It's the downtime and shutting down campus parking lots while you're reconstructing or doing, some type of repair on these sites with minimal, I'd say, crack sealing, microsurfacing, and patching. A consistent program like that, they've really kept their operations functional and saved themselves a lot of money while extending their pavement. So it's important to look at, what could happen. Maybe you're one of those facility managers that have pavements right now and everything's, smooth sailing, not a care in the world. Everything's looking good, but pavements tend to age in one direction. And so if you're not dealing with this now, someday you will. So this is a snippet of what our deliverable looks like. We put these 5-year maintenance plans together for clients. I pulled out just one subset of data here. This is Maricopa Community College campus parking lot, MCC. So they, have different names for different campus parking lots. They have 142 parking lots. This MCC campus lot is 2.2 million square feet. Within that parking lot, we broke this down into different sections. So there's section A, B, C, all the way through V. They're not quite in alphabetical order, but you can see the PCI score of each section. So in 2023, section A was rated a 57. And what you see here, this is input into our asset management program. So we say, based on the distresses that exist today, how would you predict that pavement to degrade over time? So we predict that in 2024, it'll be a 56. In 2025, you see it drops to a 54, then a 52, and a 51. So what catches my eye and what we're looking for there are kind of gaps in color change. What is my window to do some type of preservation treatment before the distresses get so bad that we're only left with the option to reconstruct or do a full depth repair? Same with the pavements in the green. We're looking for changes from green to yellow. What's my window that crack sealing is effective? Maybe some type of surface treatment. So this is the way we put these plans together and say, okay, client, you have X amount of dollars to spend. Here's how we would best recommend you spend that money. So Jennifer, who manages our projects on the West Coast, did this project, and she came back with this repair plan. So she said, you know, on certain sections, section A, D, E, et cetera, T, B, in 2023, we recommend you do some preservation, preventative maintenance, crack sealing, patching, maybe a micro surfacing, and then here she had a preventative maintenance project in 2025. So you see, not everything is pulled for repair, not everything needs it. And clients have limited dollars. You can't possibly do everything. So we say, what would give you the most bang for your buck and how best to spend your dollars. Based on our relationships with contractors and known pricing, we help put together estimated unit costs for this. So this gives you a sense of what you need to budget and plan. A lot of clients need to kind of go up the chain and get funding designated for this type of repair work. So we can say, you know, looking out 5 years, how much money are we going to need annually for pavement specific repair work? So just to get into the weeds a little bit, you see we had estimated that crack sealing patching project on section A, we're going to need about $90,000. We do this. This is a really small subset of these 140 parking lots. There's a lot of data, but I just wanted to zoom in on one here. So let's just focus on that line A, section A there, you know, a $90,000 project. We further divide that, you know, 38,000 of that is really going to be a crack sealing effort. 52,000 of that, we're going to do some type of micro surfacing. You see that total there, the $90,000. And I just wanted to share on this slide, you know, we hear a lot from clients, the way they pick what work to be done. They're very reactionary, as Bill was saying. You know, we had a logistics client that managed the 140 parking lots I was explaining earlier, and we asked him, you know, how are you picking what maintenance needs to be done? And this was his quote: whoever complains the most gets the work. So they'd have a handful of facility managers that would call up every year and say, you know, our parking lot is falling apart, we need more money out here. And when we assessed all 140 parking lots, what we found was, you know, there were 20 or 30 parking lots in far more dire need for money and maintenance than these same people that were complaining and getting all the funding. And unfortunately, that's a bit of a waste of money when you're spending money on pavements that haven't quite reached the point that they need repair work. You know, you want to optimize where your dollars are going to spend that money wisely. So I have just one more quick example of kind of a data-driven model that we can do with this data. Let's say you don't know what condition your pavements are in. You want to maintain at about a 70, but what you do know is the budget you get per year. This would be more of a budget-driven approach. So you can say, okay, model, tell me what happens if I do nothing. That's the blue, right? No maintenance. You just see it kind of continue to drop year to year. After 20 years, you go from about a 71 down to a 30. Or you can say, what if we spend, you know, a little over $500,000 per year? What if we spend 1.2 million per year, 1.8 million per year? So you see kind of what the sweet spot is with your budget, what you need to be spending in order to maintain at a given PCI condition level. You can do this PCI driven, where you let the program tell you what you need to spend. You say, I don't know what the cost is, but I know I want to hit that 70 PCI of 70 year to year to year. We can use the program to say, what should I spend in years 1 through 20 to achieve that goal? And sometimes the answer is it's unattainable. I had a client that wanted to maintain at an 80, and they were currently spending $200,000 to $300,000 a year on preventative maintenance. Their whole network was built in about 1980, so they were just kind of hitting their intended design life. And when we ran the scenario, we showed that they should be spending almost $2 million a year. Well, that's quite a big leap to get from a couple $100,000 to $2 million. But the point is, having the data allows you to start thinking towards that and start planning for that cost. So in closing here, you know, think about what would it look like for you to not have to worry about your pavements. We are really good at this, not to kind of toot our own horn here, but we have worked with clients in any spectrum from logistics to school districts. We're working with a large religious organization now that's think we're doing about 100 reports for them across the country, down to anything from somebody that manages a single parking lot. So we have the expertise. We would love to, follow up with you, even a 15-minute call to help kind of hear what your story is on your pavements, can be really effective and get you on the right path forward on managing these and getting some data collected. So who can use this? I said this at the beginning, but pretty much if you have pavements you manage, I just want to highlight, retail, schools, healthcare facilities. I put this tree to remind me, we've mounted this equipment to a bicycle. We've filmed trail networks before. So if you're, managing a trail network, we can certainly film and manage that for you as well. So I think that's my last slide here. I know we've got about 10 minutes left for questions. I'll welcome Megan back to help facilitate that. And then if we run out of time here, both mine and Bill's contact information is up there. So feel free to shoot us an email. Megan?
Hey everyone, thanks so much. We have several comments in the chat. I think we were able to address most of them. The first thing I wanted to ask, one of our guests asked, is this also AI generated? I believe that was in reference to the reporting that you shared towards the end of the presentation, Andrea. If you want to talk about that.
Yeah, we aren't using, the robots aren't taking over the world and replacing our engineering judgment here. So we do that all with our pavement engineers. So we rely on the data from Ahmed and his team. We do a quality check of that data to make sure the numbers make sense. And then we, as the pavement management team, we put all the plans together. I wouldn't be comfortable yet fully trusting that to AI. I mean, there's a lot of decisions that go into a plan. There can be political reasons, or maybe you have scheduled maintenance for doing a specific project over another. For instance, maybe you have 100 sites. You might want to make sure your headquarters parking lot is performing well, and then some that are less used or have less traffic, maybe those ones get pushed off to the side. So I would say it's not, the plans we put together aren't just blindly based on, what the score is. There's more engineering judgment that comes into play there.
Thanks, Andrea. The next question is, when you put together a pavement management plan, what is the process for design of pavement preservation treatments and the actual construction of the treatments?
Yeah, so we will put together our recommendations. Let me see, when you put together the plan, we'll put together, what years we recommend those treatments be done. The schedule of when that work is completed would depend on, bids and like local contractors' schedule. So, when the actual construction takes place is a little out of our control, but we can certainly work with you to prepare bid packages and plans to help get you to that position where you're ready to get a contractor on board and take over the work. Did you want to add anything, Bill? I saw you jump in, but that's how I'd answer that that question.
I think it's a great answer. I appreciate that, Andrea.
All right, next question. What is the width of data collection? With typical parking lot access, what area of pavement can be scanned in an hour? How do you address areas that are not accessible, such as where cars are parked?
Yep. So we film as much of the parking lot as we can. I think I mentioned this earlier. If there's cars parked there, we would drive around that. I would just say that's no different than a manual inspection or drone coverage, right? A drone, while it might look like it fills in those gaps, it's going to show a car, bird's eye view, looking at the top of a car, not seeing x-ray vision through the pavement there. So we collect as much data as we have access to in terms of what area can be scanned in an hour. We typically drive about 10 to 15 miles an hour. So, however that shakes out, we can typically film an average 8-acre parking lot in about 30 minutes. And then, and then areas that we're not able to view, though, because we have technicians driving these locations, we train our technicians. If you see areas under trucks or under areas that we're not able to access, we can take photos of that. We can get out and document areas of distress that we're not able to capture. We can crawl down and peek under cars if there's areas of concern that the cameras don't address. So we don't just send anybody out to the site. Every technician is trained with pavement knowledge so that they know what they're looking for on a site.
Great, thanks, Andrea. I know there are a few questions about access to the PowerPoint and recording, and we will get you access to that, so don't worry about that. Two more questions I see in the chat. We have just a few minutes left, so if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. Next question is, do you have a comparison of your visual inspection to your AI inspection and how they vary?
Yeah, I don't have that pulled up, but I can certainly send that to you. That is no secret. We have done a lot when we were kind of developing this process. We would manually rate a site and then do the work with the AI. We have found consistently we're within 5 to 10 points, and that's only been refined over time as we improve our process here. So we've gotten to the point on the Maricopa College project that Jennifer is actually trusting of the AI data over what manual inspectors often come back with. So what's beneficial having the AI tool is that we as project managers can basically walk a site with a technician. When we did a manual survey, they just came back with the data and we didn't have the full coverage photo or ortho imagery to see that pavement. We would just take their word based off of, 8 still photos they took of a parking lot and say, okay, you found this was rated a 60, we just believe you. Now we can basically put yourself in the shoes of the camera. You can see, everything that was scanned and see areas of distress based on this process. So one, to answer your question, we're seeing very similar results with the AI inspection data, even better because we're getting more coverage than just doing the sample units, as Amit was explaining. So, but yeah, we can definitely share that. I see one last one here.
Yeah.
One question that comes to mind is that imagery, unless it's done with LiDAR, does not detect depth. Yeah, so this is a 2D scan. We base this off of ASTM 6433. This is not LiDAR data, so we're not capturing distress in the Z direction. Like I just mentioned, we have technicians trained on what to look for. So if there are spots of rutting on a site, we will document that. We can manually enter that into Paver or our asset management software that we use. All the quantities extracted from PaveAI get brought into our asset management software so we can add in areas of Z direction distress. And I'll say we've seen that on some sites that that is a concern. We've done some linear projects on solar type applications where we'll take a rutting check every 1,000 feet and incorporate that into our report. So we do have ways around that, even though we're limited by the 2D camera collection. I see, how is backlog addressed in each year's study? I guess I don't know specifically what that means, but if it's a backlog of work that needs to be done, so let's say you have a lot of projects that you have in the queue that need to be reconstructed. Is that what you're getting at? We can implement, a backlog of projects that you have in the queue. We wouldn't necessarily have to re-rate those for you. Like if you have 4 parking lots that need to be reconstructed, you don't need us to tell you how bad they are if you're already planning to rebuild them. So we can just bake those into our plan and say, you plan to rebuild parking lots ABC, we'll rate the other ones and then put those in a plan moving forward. So I think that sounds like that addressed your question there. I know we're almost out of time. Again, feel free to email myself or Bill. We had great attendance today and some great engagement. I hope this was informative for you, and I'm again thankful for those that joined today.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Andrea, Bill, Amit, and Steve. We're so glad that you were able to present to us today. As a reminder, we'll get you the recording for this if you'd like to share it with anyone else in your organization. And as always, if you think of questions later, feel free to reach out. We really appreciate you all joining us, and we hope you have a great afternoon. Take care.